It's the 26th of May, a day more than any other that links Dunottar Castle, Edinburgh Castle and the Scottish Crown Jewels. And if you stick with me to the end, I'll tell you why and I'll help you plan one of those historic days out in Scotland. Hiya, I'm Bruce Fummey from Scotland History Tours. If you're interested in the people, events and places in Scottish history and you want some great ideas about places to visit in Scotland, then subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the notification bell. That way you'll be notified every time I make a new YouTube video. In the meantime, let me tell you a story. Now, if Edinburgh Castle is the most visited castle in Scotland, Dunottar must be the most dramatic and windswept. And two events, 167 years apart, link this date and these two castles. Last year, 1.7 million people visited Edinburgh Castle, and most of them dutifully stood and queued as they waited to file past the crown jewels, the honours of Scotland. The sword, the sceptre and the crown. Now the sword was a gift to James IV by Pope Julius II. The sceptre was a gift to James IV by Pope Innocent VIII. And the crown had certainly been in existence by the time of James IV. Apparently, all three were first used together for the coronation of James's granddaughter, the 9-month-old Mary, Queen of Scots. I know, 9 months. Anyway, I've watched people queue, then file by the honours in the past, and I'm often struck by the waste. To stand all that time in that queue, only to miss the point.
Did you see the stone? Oh, that big block of sandstone. What was that?
That was the thing of value! Now, if you've been to Edinburgh Castle to see the crown jewels, either before or after the stone was brought there, what did you think? Which is the most important? Tell me in the comment section underneath, right? Let's get a debate started. So how valuable are the crown jewels? How valuable are the honours of Scotland? Just in case you ever find yourself in Antiques Roadshow, I can answer that question. But let me answer it with two stories. In the 1650s, Scotland found itself in a bit of a trouble during the War of the Three Kingdoms. The English Civil War, okay, it's always got to be about you, hasn't it? For reasons that we'll cover in another video, after Charles I had his head chopped off by Oliver Cromwell's English parliamentarians, the Scots backed his son, also named Charles. Charles II was the last king to be crowned at Scone, the ancient inauguration place of Scottish monarchs. I think that just made them angry. Cromwell and his new model army invaded Scotland with a ferocity not unlike the Jacobite period. 2 years. After 2 years, the very last place holding out was Dunottar Castle. And if you look at Dunottar Castle, you can understand why. Now, the honours of Scotland, used for Charles II's coronation, had been hidden in sacks of wool and brought for safety to this last holdout, this last safe place in Scotland. That's how valuable they were. The King's papers were also taken there for safety, but would they be safe from Cromwell's army? Cromwell laid siege to Dunottar. What, 8 months in a rocky outcrop with not so much as a coronavirus walk? What a nightmare! Some leeway was given to the lady of the castle. Elizabeth Douglas was her name. She was the wife of Sir George Ogilvy, the governor, and she was allowed occasional visitors. And she took this opportunity. She got one of her visiting relatives to sew the King's papers into her frocks and then walk through the besieging troops on the way out. A daring wheeze. But what about the crown jewels? Now, I don't care what anybody says. You can't carry off the same ruse with a crown, a sceptre and a sword.
Ooh, is that a sword in your pocket, or are you Sir George Ogilvy in drag?
So Elizabeth Douglas gets a message to her friend Christian Fletcher. She's the wife of the minister at the Kneff church nearby. And what they do is they arrange that the crown jewels will be lowered from the cliffs at night, and the servant of the minister's wife will go down to the beach and she'll pick them up. She'll collect them in a basket when she's down collecting seaweed, right? And the honours of Scotland were hidden under the floor of the Kneff Kirk for the next 9 years. On the 26th of May, 1652, the last holdout against Cromwell surrendered. But the Cromwellian troops couldn't find the honours of Scotland. Now, Sir George Ogilvy and Elizabeth Douglas paid for their actions by being imprisoned in the castle until the following year. But it was worth it. Now, 3 months before this date, Cromwell had imposed a union on Scotland, incorporating it into England, shutting its parliament and allocating 30 Scots MPs in the Westminster Parliament. Now, of course, that went by the wayside. It was dissolved when Cromwell died. But in 1707, a second union between Scotland and England created the United Kingdom.
Everybody calm down! Right, some country got stabbed, and nae country's leaving this place till we find out what country did it.
Okay, just let me tell the second story. Up until 1707, the honours had been taken to sittings of the Scottish Parliament. You know, the one in the Royal Mile, not the modern one down at the bottom, the one in the Royal Mile. They were taken to represent the King, who was in London since the Union of Crowns in 1603, right? But after 1707, there was no Parliament. Monarchs were crowned in London. The honours were forgotten. Now, in the 19th century, Sir Walter Scott was a key figure in the revival of a new acceptable brand of Scottishness. You know, now that Culloden was far enough away to be forgotten. And he was given permission to rummage about in Edinburgh Castle for cash in the attic. And he was given permission by the grandson of that Hanoverian king that clansmen had defied at Culloden. And after breaking through a wall, he found a pile of linen. And under the pile of linen was a box. And in the box, he found the crown jewels of Scotland. They had lain for over 100 years, worthless and forgotten. And on the 26th of May 1819, they went on display at Edinburgh Castle, exactly 167 years to the day after Cromwell's troops had broken down the doors at Dunottar Castle to look for them. And now, people pay to queue at Edinburgh Castle and peer into a glass case to see the sword, the sceptre and the crown. And the lump of stone. But that's a story for another day. What's the value of the honours of Scotland? They mean the world to me. Now, I hope you enjoyed that little story and that little bit of history. If you did, please, I say this all the time, like the thing, share the thing, because that means that YouTube will tell other people about this thing, right? So like it and share it, and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not already subscribed, and click the notification bell, and that way you'll get notified every time there's it. Right, anyway, I promised you a historic day out, and we're going to have a day out in Stonehaven. Shut it. Right, you'll enjoy it. But what we're going to do, because some people might not want to do the, some Scottish people, they maybe been there, seen it, done everything. So what we'll do is there'll be a link up here, okay? And if you click the link, it'll take you onto the bit with all the advice about having a day out. And there's tons to do in Stonehaven, right? Honestly, right? Go, click the link. You'll have fun, honestly. Right? Whether or not, just in case I don't see you again, Hammy and Dawkins can be La Malai. Cheery and Rasta.